for the month of December, Living Everyday Wonder, a community, and we're focused on community. Today, our conversation and our talk is titled Into We See. Into We See, and as this unfolds, we will discover things about diversity and inclusion and our part in actually expanding our vision so that we see those who are missing from the table and we invite them into the table to be a part of the totality of who we are as spiritual beings, as expressions of the divine. I have a little human kindness story that I'd like to share with you as we start this off today. And this is a conversation that was overheard while shopping at a Dollar Tree store. Someone overheard a customer's conversation with the cashier. And the customer was sharing that every year they saved up their loose change that they received as tips from being a server at a local cafe. And then as Christmas neared, they would visit the local Dollar Tree and buy small stuffed toys, as many as their savings would allow. And this year they had spent about $300, they had bought about $300 worth of stuffed toys. Now, the owner of the restaurant where they worked allowed them to keep, the owner had actually set aside a refrigerated cooler to keep the toys in. And so as families came in to eat and they were seated at this particular server's assigned tables, if there were children there, the server would present to the child or to the children, if there were more than one, a cold stuffed toy, telling them that it was from the North Pole and it was from Santa Claus. And the surprise and the joy on their faces and the excitement and the reaction of both the kids and the parents were priceless. And it brought joy to the server and to the families. And so this is just one example of small ways that we can make a difference in someone else's life. And so as we delve into our topic today, Into We See, we recognize that a welcoming, inclusive, and a richer experience of life awaits us when we enter into communion with those around us. When we train ourselves to see the big picture, we have a greater experience of humanity. When we see people in our community as outside, we fail to see them at all. We limit possibilities for a greater whole. And I offer this example. When a person says, "I do not see color," it is offensive to the people of color in the room because we have just been eliminated. We've been eliminated from the gathering, from the event, and the conversation has turned into one of disrespect. We are called to recognize that whatever the perceived difference is, there's value in making genuine connections with all people. In this world, we are creating together. Nobody has to fit in because we all already belong. We've no doubt heard the statement, "Know your own worth." In a recent TED Talk that I watched, Angelique Kyojo adds this: "Too many people think they are worth nothing." And she adds, "You can fall beneath the earth, but you can always rise up. It does not matter how hard it is. Get up and live your life." And that is a lot easier said than done, especially for someone who has taken that deep fall back into whatever it is that the experience brought them there to. As we see into another, this is where the role of the community comes together to support an individual or individuals in getting up. We remember our own personal worth, and by doing so, we see the worth in others. It is vital to acknowledge being part of a community and creating community. So we're all in the same boat together, as the expression goes. Science of Mind teaches us to recognize wholeness, to recognize the spirit itself expressing through all things. Spirit is here and it is to be known. If there is no separation, as our philosophy teaches us, as life teaches us, if there is no separation, then it's my ego self that is creating the illusion of separation. Science of Mind teaches us the compassion and practical application of seeking to see wholeness through all experiences, including all expressions of humanity itself. Ernest Holmes established this for us in the opening statement of our Declaration of Principles, where he writes, "The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God." In other words, we are each manifestations of this divine mind. God's self-knowingness takes form in us as a divine pattern within each one. And so we can think of this divine pattern as the theory for our topic today, Into We See. And so having the theory as the background, I offer some practical applications to take the theory into action. You know, Science of Mind has been described by people who have not taken a deep dive into the study as a very heady teaching. And it can be so. It can be a very intellectual teaching. And so we attempt to break this down into bite-sized pieces, if you will, that allows us to move from theory into action. And so the first thing I offer this morning is to identify who may be missing from the conversation. We do this by observing the people in our circle, those who are here in our center, and in our community as a whole. And this observation can reveal for us who may be missing from the conversation. And so the practical application then is to intentionally create or use whatever reveals itself as an opportunity to engage in the practical inclusivity first, so that diversity can be reflected. Another way of saying this is, as we look around and we see who may be missing from the conversation that is a part of our community, we open ourselves and we open to the possibilities of inviting them into the conversation. It's about inclusivity. As a general practice, Science of Mind does not proselytize. How we get our message out, not through tracts and little, well, we're starting to use more video pieces, but the way we actually teach this philosophy, this way of life, is by the life that we live. Our life is a demonstration of our belief system, or as some phrase it, our BS. So our belief system demonstrates in our lives. And so we must ask, does the life that I live outpicture as just theory? Am I just a talking head? Or is my life a reflection of compassion, inclusion, and unconditional love for everyone? And only we can answer that for ourselves. It's not about the feedback that we get from somebody else, because sometimes people will say things to make us feel good, or they want to make nice because they may be expecting or looking for something in return. It's our task to go within and ask, am I living the life that I sing about? Am I living the life that I talk about? Our second action item is to recognize that diversity is a human attribute. Diversity is a human attribute. Diversity is one of the qualities of life and has an infinite variety of expressions. As our world becomes smaller, thanks in large part to technology, we have an expanded awareness of the fuller range of human diversity. We are no longer enclaves of sameness. And I think as we begin to recognize this, and as I mentioned last year in the quote from Maya Angelou, that as we appreciate diversity and we recognize the totality of our community and the people that make up our community, we move away from complexion. We learn that we are our brother and that we are our sister. And so I offer this story as an example of diversity and inclusion. And if you read the lesson from today's Science of Mind magazine, you may find some familiarity here. Let's identify the person in the story as Karen. Karen didn't have much experience with people of differing abilities when her 6-year-old daughter became friends with the little girl next door. Now, the little girl next door had a 10-year-old sister who was in a wheelchair, unable to speak, feed, or clothe herself. And so as Karen became more comfortable around the 10-year-old and began to interact with her more, the girl's mother said, "Speak to her as you would speak to a 6-month-old." Karen did so and began to develop a quiet relationship with the girl. And when she would go there, the girl would give her extra smiles, and there would be attempts to reach out and to laugh. And so as time went on and as technology began to advance, the little girl in high school was exposed to technology that had devised a tool where she could press a button in response to images that had been projected onto a screen in the classroom. And I think we may have seen examples of these as we've surfed through the internet. So the technology allowed the girl to feel engaged, and it also created an opportunity for the other children and the adults to begin to see her as whole. And her circle of friends began to expand. You know, we can apply this same principle to elderly people who may have a hearing disorder or who may have a hearing disorder. People assume that their quiet demeanor or confusing expressions may be a sign of dementia. However, when they receive a new or a stronger hearing aid, they are now included in the conversation, and it's common for relationships to miraculously transform. And I just share my own story of vanity, if you will. I didn't want to acknowledge that I had a hearing aid, a slight hearing loss, or a hearing challenge, or a hearing opportunity. You know, all of the words that we use in metaphysics to say, I'm losing my hearing. I didn't want to wear hearing aids. And so I would find myself struggling to hear, and I would be asking people to repeat. And then the last election that I worked, I was assigned to the task of signing off the individuals as they came in to vote, to check them off on the roster. And I found myself repeatedly having to ask people their names. And in California, ID is not required, but I internally rejoiced when people gave me a driver's license because I didn't have to ask for their name or ask them to repeat their name if they didn't hear it. And so following that experience, I got myself down to Costco. They referred me to an ear doctor to do a process before being fitted for the hearing aids. I went back in and got the hearing aids. And now I have a better quality of life because I don't have to continually ask, would you please say that again? Now, what I have also learned is that in certain settings and in certain conversations, especially if I'm on a Zoom call, people's voice levels, some are higher, some people have more volume, and some people have a lesser volume. Some people are just by nature soft-spoken. And so I can either adjust the human aid or the human aid, yes. I can adjust the hearing aid, or I can also adjust the volume on my computer, or we can ask the individual to speak a little bit louder. So there are ways that we learn to compensate and to be in community ourselves and not be marginalized and not feel disenfranchised. Jean Vanier, Canadian founder of L'Arche, an international federation of communities spread over 37 countries, working with people with developmental disabilities, says this: one of the marvelous things about community is that it enables us to welcome people in a way and to serve people in a way that we could not do as individuals. And so let's bring this down into a much narrower focus here in our own center, in our own communities, in our own circle. As we are aware of the needs of people, and sometimes those with needs are the ones that are missing from the conversation. As we become aware of this, as a community, we coalesce together. And as a community, we can fill in some of those gaps. One of the ways we do this here at the Monterey Center is through our tithing. We tithe on 10% of our income. Part of it goes to our home office for the services they provide to us as a center and to our larger global community. And we tithe out to organizations that are making a difference in the community. Those organizations whose principles and practices are in line with the teachings of spiritual principles and human dignity, recognizing the totality of all life and not just focused on serving one community. So this is one of the ways that we are making a difference. And I say again, thank you to this loving community for your generosity that allows us to give out, to keep our flow in circulation. And the third practice that I would like to share with us this morning is to practice curiosity. Practice curiosity. By practicing curiosity in our interactions with others, we develop deeper and richer relationships. Curiosity expresses a genuine interest in another person's lived experience, and it allows us to check our assumptions and our biases. I'll say that again. Curiosity expresses a genuine interest in another person's lived experience of the world and allows us to check our assumptions and/or our biases. Now, this piece, if you take nothing else away from this talk this morning, I want you to take this away. Curiosity does not equate to personal privacy invasion. Curiosity does not equate to personal privacy invasion. And I'll give you an example. And this happened to me, not here in this community, but it has happened to me. You know, there are people who have no filters and have no boundaries and will ask you anything. Well, someone had the boldness and the audacity to ask me at one time what color underwear I had on that particular day. I was so stunned, I didn't have an immediate response. But that's just a demonstration of the audacity. And some of you may not have had an experience as drastic as my experience, but I just offered that as an example. This truly was an invasion of my personal privacy that I did not like. And actually that individual became a check mark on my do not contact list. Rather drastic action as a spiritual practitioner. I acknowledge, I went there, okay? Curiosity allows us to create unity, and this is what we're about in creating community. We create unity. We recognize unity is not the opposite of diversity. Unity actually requires diversity. Unity is in truth inscribed in sacred scriptures. Curiosity allows us to learn and to appreciate the truth of oral indigenous peoples, a culture that we may not fully be aware of. This is why we find happiness in belonging. We are one. No one can be left out. We were made to be together. And this quote is from Tim Shriver in The Call to Unite. And I offer these concluding thoughts for us this morning. The gift of seeing into the full kaleidoscope of human experience through such things as medical advancements, increased immigration, and fuller expressions of human rights requires us to look at communities through the lens of others. It requires us to step out of our bubble. Our sense of who represents our community can be the result of ideas and norms formed in our youth that have never been questioned. Expanding on these ideas or questioning these ideas, we realize how much bigger the world is. And so we deliberately step outside of our habits and comfort zone. We no longer skim off of the top. We reach in, we dig in, we intentionally become vulnerable and curious to know who is around us, who is a part of our community, who can expand our awareness of the oneness of life. Practicing into we see, remember, we are connected through the divine pattern of God's infinite self-knowingness expressed in the manifest universe. The manifest universe is the body of God, and we are the body of God. Our call to action or our life work this week is to recall the first time you met someone who was different from you and to ask, what was that like? And what did I learn? Recall the first time you met someone who was different from you and ask, what was that like? And what did I learn from that experience? And our second action, is there a point in your life when you stopped meeting new people? And if so, what influenced your decision? Is there a point in your life when you stopped meeting new people? And if so, what influenced your decision? I'm going to offer another challenge to us. You know, I'm always looking for ways to have a more interactive participation and engage the community in the experience of practicing these principles of science of mind. And so I'm going to ask that during the week, as you reflect on this life work, if you just make a few notes, and then next Sunday when we return, jot those notes into the chat so that we can have that as part of our dialogue. It's just another way of engaging, and I offer that to you if you're willing to do so. Let us say together now our weekly affirmation. I see spirit in everyone I meet. I see spirit in everyone I meet. And so it is. Let us now join together in prayer. Let's begin by taking in a breath. Let us just breathe together, breathing into this eternal moment of now, recognizing the all-prevailing presence of spirit that shows up in multiplicity, and yet within the multiplicity, there is the oneness expressing. How good it is to know that I am a unique expression of the divine. Its perfect pattern is expressing in my life. It is the very essence of who I am. And as I acknowledge this as being true for me, I acknowledge it as being true for all people, all expressions of the divine, each one carrying this perfect pattern of the manifest body of God. And so I speak my word this morning, just declaring a blessing on all people in all places everywhere, recognizing that the truth known in one place is the truth that is known anywhere. recognizing that as we expand our awareness of the community that we are creating, the communities that we are a part of, the communities that we choose to connect with, that we're doing so with intention. We're doing so with the intention and the awareness and the knowledge that we are one with Spirit. We are united in oneness. And it is the diversity of each one as an individualized expression of Spirit that brings us and connects us together. And so in our connection, there is joy, there is peace, there is harmony. Our sadness and our mourning has turned away from pain into joy. And the joy of living is what lifts us each day. It lifts me higher and higher and higher into the awareness of God's love that is never ending, that is always prevailing. And so I know in this moment, right now, that the blessing of Spirit, the unity of Spirit, the interconnectedness of all life is expressing in marvelous and magnificent ways that are invisible to begin with, and then appear as visible in form. I bless individuals who are experiencing transitions in their lives. The transition in physical form of a loved one or a beloved, or the memory of the transition of a beloved. Knowing that the essence of their spirit is always remaining here with us. I speak my word of blessing for people who are experiencing transitions in other areas of their lives, such as seeking and engaging in right livelihood, that which produces sustainable resources that create an abundance and an affluence and prosperity in every single area of life. Right livelihood in the term of housing and a joyful and a safe place to have shelter from the storm, as the expression goes. And I'm just acknowledging individuals who choose to live outside, honoring their choice and allowing it to be their choice and not a necessity. It is just their choice. And so in blessing all that there is in this marvelous life, I know that the divine continues to express in its fullness and in its joy. And so for this and so much more, I am eternally grateful, releasing this word back into that law, which always says yes. I just allow it to be so. And I invite you to affirm it with me as we say together, and so it is. And so it is. And just a quick reminder for those of you who are here at the center, we do have a prayer box on our prayer table, and I invite you to fill out a prayer request so that the ministers and the practitioners can be in prayer with you and support you during whatever it is, the joy as well as those things that are not joyful. And for our community that is joining us online, we do have a listing of our practitioners and ministers on our website and also in our newsletter. You may also reach out to our Centers for Spiritual Living World Ministry of Prayer and also to Silent Unity for prayer support. And as I often share with individuals, don't leave here with a problem. Turn it over, release it, let it go. Embrace the joy and the fullness of life. And now it is time for us to share in this circulation of money, the flow of abundance that is important in the life that we live. We live in a money-based economy. And so as we circulate our abundance, it goes out, it is put to purposeful use, and it comes back. And so as we participate in this flow, we continue to be blessed and prosper. And let us say together now our affirmation of abundance. I recognize the presence of God within as a source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And so it is. And you may contribute to the center. There are 3 ways identified on the screen, and we also have the opportunity for you to donate to the center through PayPal, and we will have that information available as part of our donation options next week. So you may mail in your donations to the center, and the address is on the screen. You may text to give, and that number is on the screen. And you may also contribute through our website, montereycsl.org. And I take this opportunity now to thank our friends and our family who are joining us through our virtual communities of Facebook and on our YouTube channel. Know that we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank God for you. And we invite you to tune in next week as we continue our theme for the month of December, community. And the message is the Ode to Joy. And before we sign off, I want to let you know about a couple of events that are happening here at the center that you may join us online with. And the first is our visioning, which takes place on Saturday morning and also on Sunday morning. The information is on the screen for you. Today, we are wrapping the remaining gifts for the Santa Project right after service. We are still accepting additional donations to this project. And it is one of our outreaches during the holidays where we buy gifts for children. We adopted 10 children this year, 5 boys and 5 girls. And we are fulfilling their wish list. And it is through your generosity that we're able to continue to do this on an annual basis. So again, thank you for that. And you may donate online to montereycsl.org. You may also mail in your contributions to 400 West Franklin Street, Monterey, California. You're also invited to join us on December the 22nd, which is a Thursday, for our holiday celebration. We have an exciting program that is being put together by our practitioners and ministers. The holiday celebration begins at 6 p.m., not 6 a.m., at 6 p.m. on Thursday, December the 22nd. Please join us for that. For those who live locally, you're invited to join us here in the center, or you may also join us online. A reminder that we will not have a service on Christmas Day. You're invited to take this opportunity to be with your friends and your families. And then on first night, this is actually a local activity, but on first night, this is their 30th year celebration here in Monterey. This takes place on December the 31st. And I believe the program begins at 4 and continues until 11. The Monterey Center this year is another site for a couple of the venues, and it's an opportunity for our members and our congregants to participate in the activity. There's a sign-up sheet for you to be available to support with the setup as well as the cleanup, and a sign-up sheet to bring cookies for sale. And I understand that people come to our venue for the cookies and stay for the music. So we invite you to be a part of that. And then the other option is our annual World Peace Meditation, which is taking place on December the 31st. And it is at 4 a.m. Pacific time, 4 a.m., which is Greenwich Mean Time. And you can participate this year online through our Centers for Spiritual Living. And so that information is in our e-blast, and we encourage you to do that. And you can also check out the Centers for Spiritual Living Facebook page and find that information there. And so to our virtual family, thank you. Happy holidays. We love you and we appreciate you and we thank God for you.